What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Emma if you're new here, and I love to talk about all things Peloton, cycling, and fitness. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I post every single Sunday. In today's video, I'm a little nervous. I am going to be retaking the FTP test on Peloton. If you don't know what that is, at least on Peloton, I think they modify it so that it's shorter. You essentially cycle as hard as you can for 20 minutes and you get a total output from that, and then they derive your power zone ride zones from it. So you'll get zones 1 through 7 broken down by like different outputs. And you should be taking this, I think they recommend like every 3 months or something. And I am not good at following that advice. It has been a year and a half since I've taken the FTP test. So I figured, now is the time to retake it, see where my fitness is. I have taken the FTP test 4 times. I downloaded my Peloton data and put it into pelotrend.com. I'll link it down below, but it's a really great free website where you can visualize like a lot of your Peloton data if you're interested in that. And they separate out the FTP test, which is really nice because then you can see when you took it and like what your output was, what your resistance and cadence was. So the first time that I took it was May 20th, 2020, and that was pretty quickly after I got the bike. I mean, I would think around a month and a half of riding. My total output was 192, my average cadence was 77, average resistance was 48. The first FTP test is always the hardest because you literally have no clue what you're doing and you have like no baseline to go against what you should be trying to beat. So, I feel like that was a pretty good first FTP test. The second FTP test I took 5 months later on October 19th, 2020. There was an 8% increase with a total output of 208. My average cadence was 70, average resistance was 53. So I definitely was starting to learn that I have higher output with a lower cadence and higher resistance. My third FTP test was 8 months later with a total output of 244, which was a 17% increase from the previous test, with an average cadence of 74, average resistance of 55. So really I was improving on both. And then finally, the last FTP test I took a year after my third. On July 15th, 2022, my total output was 261, which was a 7% increase from my third test. Average cadence was 66 and average resistance was 61. I dropped the cadence a lot, but really packed on the resistance. 261 is pretty high. Like, I'm impressed that I could do that a year and a half ago. I think that my FTP test will probably be lower today, which is okay. Although I've always seen increases in the past, it's impossible to just continuously increase, especially since now I do a lot more cross-functional training. I don't ride the bike that much. I mean, I don't ride it at all when I'm in New York, so it's totally okay to decrease. It's just nice to have a snapshot of your fitness, from today, and that my power zone rides will be more accurate. That'll have more correct zones for my current level of fitness on the bike. I do think it's possible to still have a pretty good score though. I feel like I'm getting better at going fast out of the saddle. I used to really, really struggle with honestly holding anything 70 out of the saddle, and now I'm pretty comfortable holding 80 out of the saddle. And also I feel like I can hold sprints longer, so doing like 110 to 120 in the saddle. I think that I've improved, and I do a lot of running. I do a lot of strength work in New York. So we'll see. I'm very curious. I just feel like 261 is really high. And my plan of attack today is to probably try to hold around 60 resistance, but get a little faster on the cadence. I do feel like I'm more comfortable with faster cadence. So if we do see an increase, maybe it'll be from average cadence, but honestly, I do feel like during the FTP test, I kind of just black out on the bike because it is so overwhelming. You just have to try so hard for the 20 minutes. And I did want to add one last disclaimer that I do come out of the saddle during the FTP test. I know this is highly debated. I have seen like people say that if you do come out, you're basically disqualifying the whole test, that it doesn't matter. The instructors do usually encourage you to come out, I believe, not a ton. And I only come out when I like absolutely need a break. And I'm less efficient out of the saddle, so it's not like I'm getting a higher output because I'm coming out of the saddle. So we'll see. I've always come out of the saddle, so I don't want to start like not doing that. And I've never felt like my zones are not appropriate after I've done the FTP test. So it's worked for me so far. Today, we are only doing the FTP test. I did do 20 minutes of Peloton yoga before this to really stretch out the muscles, prepare me for the FTP test. I definitely feel like I perform better on the bike when I do yoga beforehand. Really loosens everything up. First, I'm going to hop on the bike and do a 10-minute FTP warm-up ride by Ben Aldis from March 1st, 2023, and then immediately go into the 20-minute FTP test ride by Ben Aldis from the same day, March 1st, 2023. Ben is my boy. He's my favorite instructor. I like his music choices. For some reason, whatever he says really amps me up. So if I'm going to get a PR, it's going to be with Ben. It's going to be my best work. We'll see. And then afterwards, I'm 100% going to need a cool down ride. So I'll be doing a 5-minute cool down ride by Hannah Frankson from October 27th, 2023, and a 5-minute post ride stretch by Emma Lovewell from December 13th, 2023. And, I'm very curious to see how it goes. It's going to be very, very hard. So I really haven't pushed myself on the bike that much since I've been home. This will be an adventure. So let's go and hit the bike and do this FTP test. That was definitely the hardest thing that I've done in a hot second. So we started out, did the 10-minute warm up. That was fine. We basically did like one full song of just pedaling out. Then we did spin ups and we ended by doing a minute of zone 3, a minute of zone 4, a minute of zone 5. That's like a very typical power zone warm up, pretty much what I expected. And then we got into the actual FTP test. During the warm up, I felt completely fine, like nothing felt wrong, but pretty much maybe 2 or 3 minutes into the FTP test, I just started feeling super bad. I like had cramps, which usually doesn't happen when I'm riding the bike. I think that, I don't know, I just wasn't prepared to go that hard today, which I also think you don't really know until you're already on the bike doing it. But I tried to push through. We ended up with a total output of 256, which is 5 kilojoules less than my last FTP test. But honestly, I'm still extremely proud of this output. I definitely worked as hard as I possibly could. And I think it's okay to, do a little bit worse. I still think 256 is amazing. So I'm very happy with it. And I'm totally okay going down a couple points. It makes sense. I'm not cycling as much. I am focusing on running and strength more. I haven't taken the FTP test in so long that I really didn't have a good plan going in. During the warm-up, Ben is like, basically, if you don't have a plan, start in zone 4 and then try to push up from there, which I think is good advice. And that's what I did. But coming out of the gate, I had the resistance way too low and the cadence way too high. And I think that then like messed me up for the first 10 minutes. I started at around 80 cadence and 50 resistance to be in my zone 4, which is around a 200 output. But then I was just struggling. And for the first 10 minutes, I really couldn't find my groove. I kept like trying to really crank up the resistance and go low on the cadence. That didn't feel good. Then I tried to flip flop and go low on the resistance and like kind of give my legs a break and go higher on the cadence. That wasn't working either. The entire test, my heart rate was in zone 4, 96% of the class, it was in zone 4. Like I was definitely really working. I pretty much never hit zone 5 except on really, really intense runs. So zone 4 is where I was sitting, but like the top of zone 4. And then after the 10-minute mark, I kind of found my groove better. I think that I was at 65 resistance and like 60 cadence and kind of cranked out there until the end when Ben led some pushes out of the saddle in the last 3 minutes to like 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, where I was trying to, make up a little bit of lost ground. And I did, because for a while I was trailing my last test output. You can see it on the leaderboard by like 10 points, and I did catch up 5 points at the end. But man, I haven't felt that bad in a while. Just the whole time I didn't feel good. And it was so weird because pretty much as soon as I went in the cooldown ride, I felt fine. Like I feel completely fine now. but I think my body just was not prepared for the intensity that I wanted to go at. But you know, now we have a new FTP test score. My average cadence was 62, which is quite low. I feel like if I took it again, I would try to go a little bit faster. I think I could get a higher output if I brought up the cadence. And my average resistance was 63%. I am very proud of myself for getting on the bike and doing it. It's definitely not a fun ride. And I say this every single time I film an FTP test ride, but I need to get in the habit of taking it more frequently. But I'm glad that my zones are updated. Glad that I have just another benchmark. And overall, I'm still very, very proud of my score. So this is your sign if you haven't taken the FTP test ride in a while. You probably should, even if your score goes down, it's not the end of the world. It's always good to just have that snapshot. And that is it for this video. I hope you guys are staying safe, having an awesome week, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!